moving from the 2030 to 2035 targets is actually when some of the decarbonisation becomes harder.
Business groups say it's an ambitious target. The Greens say the government has acquiesced to the coal and gas industries. How do you see it?
Well, usually with these things, when most of your stakeholders are complaining, you've probably got the balance not too far off where you want to be. If you look at the range that's been outlined here, it's in line with the current trajectory, almost on a linear basis that we've seen over the course of this decade with the 43% emissions reduction by 2030 target. As it stands, it's going to be a challenge to actually meet the 2030 target, particularly because first, the rollout in renewables has not been as fast as we'd hoped for, and secondly, because there's also been a pause in some of particularly the carbon credit methods under the ACCU scheme. And so we do actually need to already do some catch up just to hit the 2030 target before we can then hit this 2035 target range. And moving from the 2030 to 2035 targets is actually when some of the decarbonisation becomes harder and you have to hit it, some targets, and particularly in the harder to abate sectors, which is why you're seeing the government also throwing some money in that regard, including through the National Reconstruction Fund to help industry decarbonise.
You mentioned the $5 billion being added to the National Reconstruction Fund, and there's also $2 billion for the Clean Energy Finance Corporation. I mean, is enough money being thrown at this?
Look, in terms of what decarbonisation, particularly of hard to abate sectors, require, this is a drop in the bucket, but it's going to help in certain areas. It's worth bearing in mind a lot of that National Reconstruction Fund money is not necessarily going to fully target decarbonisation. It's going to look at distressed assets amongst a number of other things. So it's not even the full seven total that you put together there, which is going to really be focused on bringing down emissions. One of the most important things that we still need to get into more details through is how the safeguard mechanism is going to potentially be enlarged to cover more emitting industries across Australia, because that's been one of the most effective market-based approaches to hitting some of these targets. And to the extent that safeguard mechanism is used and broadened out, that's going to play a really important role here.
In terms of meeting those emission reductions under the safeguard mechanism, are we seeing industry rely too much on carbon credits?
Well, the good thing about the safeguard mechanism is it's technology agnostic, it's market based, and it allows industry itself to work out its most efficient avenues for decarbonisation. Now, carbon offsets are one part of that market, and the challenge you put there is a valid one. And what it comes down to is the validity and quality of the credits. So, to the extent that we have high integrity credits being used in the safeguard mechanism, we should really be indifferent to whether industry is using credits or abating itself. And it's worth keeping in mind most companies in Australia do try to decarbonise their business first, so direct emissions, and then resort to credits for the remainder where there's still a logistic or cost or technology prohibition in getting those emissions down further. But this is being combined with a review over the last couple of years of the integrity of our credit market to make sure that we weed out some of the lower integrity credits and only focus on credits which represent a genuine additionality and abatement. And that improvement of the integrity of our ACCU scheme goes part and parcel with the broadening of the safeguard mechanism. There's clearly been a breakdown of trust between the bidding consortium XRG and Santos. And when you have a breakdown of trust and transparency in these things, it's very hard to progress a deal going forward. We've taken the view that there would have been a lot of risks to the Australian national interest in selling a large part of our resources and critical infrastructure into the hands of a foreign, undemocratic government. And to the extent this deal's fallen over, it's probably good for Australians and South Australia in particular. But it does raise a question what the future for Santos looks like from here and in the market.
And on that, what are the implications for the Santos board and, in fact, the CEO, Kevin Gallagher?
Well, I think shareholders are going to be asking if there's going to be some accountability here from the board and leadership of Santos, and if we might need to see some pressure for refresh there. And with the strategy, keeping in mind a reset might be needed here.
Saul Kavonic, thank you so much.
Thank you.